Hello everybody, welcome to the Kenny Hack. Gonna be doing a black and white painted tile piece. Call this one a beautiful failure, just in the fact that everything was going really good, and about 3/4 of the way through the burn I had some technical issues that caused the burn to stop and created some problems, but we'll get into that further down the video and things that happened and how I tried to repair it. But for now, let's jump into the time lapse of the burn. You'll see the machine stop and the problems that ensued, but we'll pick it up after that. Well, we had a great burn going, and I all of a sudden got a communication glitch from my computer to the machine. That's a glitch I've never had before. So it stopped the machine. I had to rehome it. Tried the start from here function in light burn. And as usual, unless you have a very good marking point of where it stopped, it's really hard to exactly line it up where you're not going to get an overlap or a skip. Something light burn needs to fix is when it crashes like that, it needs to know the exact second it stopped so you can resume right from where it stopped. I'm not trying to guess at it. But I'm going to try to fix this with just a number 2 pencil. I'm going to go in here and try to shade in this line and see if I can kind of fix it to where it's not very noticeable. See if my old artistic skills are still there and if I can shade it in well enough. I started to try to do it over here on the right edge. In a little bit of work, I think I can get it fairly close. So let's see how we do. Tried with the pencil, and it did a so-so job. Also tried a little bit with these artistic markers. Usually you can get these like at Michael's or Hobby Lobby. Maybe get a couple different gray tones, and you might be able, this was a pretty big skip. It was over 1 millimeter wide. But if it was down to just like a single pixel width of overlap, might have been able to get it to where it was hardly noticeable. Gonna see after I clear coat it, that, when you clear coat, it kind of drowns out some of the shading and stuff. So we'll see how it turns out. Kind of an experiment of seeing if you can recover a failure like this, that some little glitch got it and stopped the burn. After I got done putting the gloss on it, the line is still noticeable, and like I said, I wouldn't try to sell that off to like a customer or anything. It's just if you're got one for personal use and you want to kind of try to recover it. If you spend a little more time and really worked at it, yeah, you might be able to get it a little less noticeable. But for as bad as what it was, I'd say that got it about 50 to 70% repaired. But still learning. how these 15 watts work. It was a good first tile. If it wouldn't have had that error shut down on me. I'll jump over and show you my settings and everything that I did in Lightburn. Here we are in GIMP. The image was already cropped to a 3x4 image. So all I did was come in here to Image, Scale Image. I set it to a 254 pixels per inch because that was the resolution I wanted to run in Lightburn. You want them to match up. Went to inches, set it to 9 inches wide, 12 inches tall. Hit Scale. Then you have to go to File, Export As. And then I usually put in the description the size, like it's a 9x12, and how many DPI it is, 254, because I might make different size projects, larger, smaller, square, so it's easier to tell how I save this file. And then went to export. I'll just hit cancel on this one. I don't need to replace it, but that's basically all I do in GIMP is I just set the dimensions and the DPI I want to use in Lightburn. Then from there, I came into here, imported it in, and the only thing I needed to change inside of Lightburn was under Shape Properties. I left the gamma at 1, put the contrast to -20, and the brightness to 16. I had ran a test piece at 15, and it looked pretty good. And I thought, but usually when you apply a clear coat, it makes it darker. So I bumped it up 1% more on the brightness, and that might almost have been a little too much. I should have just tried taking the gamma down to like a 0.95. I could have lightened it up a little bit that way, or adjusted a little bit on the contrast. But it was still turned out to be a very good piece. Once the clear coat was on, it did darken it back up another shade darker than what it burnt without the clear coat. So that part worked pretty good. So other than that, that's all I started with. 1 gamma, -20 contrast, around 15 or 16 on the brightness, and 50 on all the enhancements. That was just kind of a generic starting point. Now, if you want to run your laser at less power, all you have to do is lighten this image up, and it'll take less power to get the same result. So like if I were to push this down to like about 0.65 is about as light as I like to go. Instead of running like right now, the way it was set up before, I was running 7,000 millimeters, 85%. I had a 6% overscan on, running at higher speeds, give it a little extra room. Had my DPI at 254 and set on the grayscale. And I was burning on the 0 scan angle. Normally I used to burn on the 90s with my 20 watt. With this 15 watt, it doesn't seem to have a power difference or a size difference depending on the angle you run, so it really doesn't matter on the 0 or on the 90. I did try running on a diagonal, and running both stepper motors at the same time puts a bigger power draw on the system, and the laser wasn't able to fire as effectively as when I was only running on the 0 or the 90, running 1 stepper motor. Like we're running this thing at pretty much I'm running at about the maximum extreme it can run. So trying to run both stepper motors and run on a funny scan angle to try to trick your eye into not seeing like some of the little belt marks, I guess you'd call them, where it kind of gets a little banded into the image. Running at these speeds, that just didn't seem to work very well, so I left it at 0. Another thing I found with these ORTURs is when you're on the grayscale, that's a pretty big file and a lot of work on the laser, constantly raising and lowering its power instead of firing dots like it does on the other dither modes, to where 7,000 is pretty much the maximum speed you can run on a large grayscale file. I've put in 9,000, and it would say the burn is going to take like an hour and a half, and it would still take 2 hours. The motors just weren't able to run that kind of speed with that kind of load on the laser, and like with having to constantly adjust its power all the time, it was just more than that circuit board could handle. So through some trial and error, I found anywhere from 65 to 100 to 7,000. It's able to pretty well keep up to, and the time it estimates it will come out pretty close. This one took, even with all my little glitches and problems, it took about an hour and 53 minutes. And that's what it said it was going to take. So it wasn't getting slowed down with anything. It wasn't getting restricted. So that's kind of where I'm setting my numbers at and trying to get things dialed in at that speed with the grayscale. That's still a very good production speed. It's not 9,000, but I'd be happy any day with 7,000 and getting a large 9x12 done in 2 hours. That's pretty good time. Far as this photograph, I was contacted by a photographer out of Latvia. I'm going to link his Facebook page in the description below. He actually contacted me, asked me to check out his Facebook page and his photographs and see if there was any of them I liked. There was a couple photographs I thought were pretty interesting. Please go to his site, check it out. He does really some interesting look photography, and he's really good at Photoshop and kind of can create this dark, surreal look to his photographs. So if you're interested in like his work, please contact him, and maybe he can do some Photoshop work for you, or maybe look at some of his pieces. I don't know what he has for sale on there, but I'd like to thank him for asking me to check out his page. I kind of bummed that this piece was going so well, and then got some kind of communication error. I'm guessing it might be the printer cable that came with this new ORTUR. They kind of have a history of having problems, like the factory supplied communication cable is kind of hit or miss. Like the first 20 watt I got, I had to replace that cable. It was constantly having communication problems and losing connection, but typically once I got a burn going, I never had a problem. This one here was the first one that got 3/4 of the way through and all of a sudden just stopped. And it said, communication error, do you want to troubleshoot it? I said no. Tried to line up the burn again. I didn't really have any good reference points. I was trying to line it up with some of the highlights in her hair, and I picked the wrong highlight and was like a millimeter off. That's something Lightburn needs to improve on, or at least if I had a time code, I could go back and when I do the start from here function, for those of you who haven't seen it, you can grab this slider bar and pull it back to any portion, and so I pulled it up into this area and tried to line it up with some of the highlights in her hair, them little white dots. You can go in here and zoom in, and I was trying to line up with one. I thought I could see some of these little light flakes in there, and I thought I was on this one, and I was actually on that one, so I overlapped that millimeter. That kind of thing happens. That just kind of comes with the trade. Other than that, hope you enjoyed the video. Post any questions down below. Please like and subscribe. Share the information. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.